All right, welcome in everyone. We're diving deep today into the world of the Southern. All right, welcome in everyone. We're diving deep today into the world of the Southern gentleman.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
It is, and we've got a fascinating guide to help us navigate this world. Boudreaux Pierre's Southern Gentleman's Guidebook.
By Antoine Boozer. I've heard good things.
Yeah, and we're going way beyond this sort of stereotypical images. We're not just talking about mint juleps and seersucker suits.
Right, right.
We're really getting into the mindset, the
Yeah.
habits, the etiquette, even the tech etiquette of a modern Southern gentleman.
Tech etiquette. Now that's interesting. I'm curious to see what a Southern gentleman's take on the digital age is.
Me too, actually. But first, I think it's important to lay the groundwork. What are the core values, the foundation of this whole Southern gentleman ideal?
Well, the guidebook lays it out pretty clearly with this acronym, ERICH.
Yuri C.
RICH.
Yeah,
Respect, integrity, charm, and honor. Those are the four pillars.
I like that. It's simple, but it's powerful.
It is. And what I appreciate is that it really emphasizes the inner qualities as much as the outward appearance.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about looking the part. It's about, being the part.
Right. You got it.
And the book really dives into how these values actually translate into action in everyday life.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, for instance, it talks about how respect starts with yourself.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, taking care of your health, your appearance, your
Yeah.
finances even. It's like you're creating a solid base for how you interact with the world.
Yeah, it's about self-respect leading to respect for others. I like that.
Yeah, and there's this idea of leveling up, which I found really intriguing.
Leveling up.
Yeah, the book emphasizes that a true Southern gentleman is always striving to refine himself.
Ah, so it's not about being born a gentleman, but becoming one.
Exactly. And it's not about becoming someone you're not. It's about, honing the qualities you already possess.
That makes sense. So it's about personal growth, but in a very specific direction.
Right. And it's not just for personal gain either. The book highlights how a Southern gentleman uses his strengths and skills to make a positive impact on his community
Hmm.
and the world around him.
Ah, so it's about taking those refined qualities and using them for good.
Exactly. There's this quote that really stuck with me. A Southern gentleman leverages skills in relationships, finances, even cultural awareness to create a life of impact.
That's a good one.
It's not just about being charming and well-dressed. It's about having substance and using it to make a difference.
Substance over style, but maybe a little bit of style too.
Of course, of course.
Mhm.
But it's not the primary focus.
Right, right. So how does this guidebook suggest a modern Southern gentleman can make a positive impact? Does it give any examples?
It does, actually. It tells a really great story about the author, Antoine Boozer. He was traveling abroad, and he found himself in this situation where there were these cultural misunderstandings causing some tension.
Uh-oh.
Sounds tricky.
It was. But instead of getting flustered, he drew upon his Southern gentleman upbringing to kind of navigate the situation.
I see. So he used his gentlemanly skills to diffuse the tension.
Exactly. He used his understanding of cultural differences, his communication skills, and his natural charm to bridge the gap and resolve the conflict peacefully.
Wow, that's a great example of how these values can be applied in real-world situations. It's not just about being a gentleman in your hometown. It's about carrying those principles with you wherever you go.
That's it. That's it. Now, speaking of carrying things,
Oh,
the guidebook has a whole section on cigars.
cigars. That's an interesting addition. I wouldn't have expected that.
I mean, either at first, but it makes sense. It's part of that Southern gentleman image.
True, true. But is it just about the image, or does it go deeper than
It
that?
goes way deeper. It talks about choosing a quality cigar,
Mhm.
appreciating the different flavor profiles,
Yeah.
and even the history and cultural significance behind the tradition. Huh. So it's like a deep dive into cigar culture. What kind of details does it get into?
Well, for instance,
Hmm.
it discusses how the origin of the tobacco and the way it's rolled
Yeah.
can significantly influence the flavor profile. It even gets into the subtle differences between Cuban, Dominican, and Nicaraguan cigars.
Wow, that's a lot more than I knew about cigars. Sounds like there's a whole art to it.
There is, there is. And the guidebook emphasizes that, enjoying a cigar, it's about more than just the smoke. It's about the ritual, the camaraderie, and the opportunity to savor a moment of quiet contemplation.
That makes sense. Slowing down, appreciating the finer things in life. It's like a theme we keep seeing in this guidebook.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And that brings us to another really interesting intersection between Southern tradition and modern technology.
Ah, yes. Tech etiquette. You mentioned that earlier. Now I'm really curious to see how a Southern gentleman navigates the digital world.
Me too. And we're going to get into that right after a quick break.
We're back and ready to dig a little deeper into the world of the modern Southern gentleman.
All right, let's do it. As we go through this guidebook, I'm really struck by how it emphasizes this idea of building a fulfilling life. It's
Yeah.
not just about manners and appearances.
It's interesting you say that because one thing that really stood out to me is how much emphasis is placed on the inner game, aligning your actions with those core values. That's huge for fulfillment.
It is, and it reminds me of the whole RICH acronym we talked about: respect, integrity, charm, and honor.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, how do those actually play out when you're trying to, build a life that you're proud of?
Well, let's take integrity, for example.
Okay.
Living with integrity means being true to yourself even when nobody's watching.
Right.
Making choices that align with your moral compass and owning up to your mistakes. That kind of authenticity and self-awareness, that's a recipe for a life well lived.
It is. It's about that internal compass, not always looking for external validation.
Exactly. And the guidebook really stresses this idea of continuous learning, personal growth, as a key ingredient for fulfillment.
Makes sense. Always be growing.
Yeah.
Always be learning.
Yeah, pursue your passions, develop new skills.
Step outside that comfort zone.
That's it. That's it.
And speaking of comfort zones, I thought it was really interesting how the book talked about cultural awareness,
Oh, yeah. How so?
not just for social situations, but as a way to enrich your own life. Learning about different cultures, it can challenge your assumptions, broaden your perspective.
It can totally shake things up in a good way, make you question what you thought you knew.
Exactly. And that could be incredibly fulfilling in itself.
It's about embracing a growth mindset, realizing you never stop learning and growing.
And speaking of growth, and I know this might seem a little bit superficial, but I was fascinated by the section on wardrobe and style.
Ah, okay.
It wasn't just about, what clothes to wear.
Yeah, it was about more than just looking good. I mean, the guidebook really dives into how a Southern gentleman's style can be a reflection of his values, his personality.
Right, right. Like it talks about investing in quality pieces, kindless pieces that show a sense of sophistication
Right.
and respect for yourself.
Right. So it's not about chasing trends or trying to fit in. It's about finding clothes that make you feel confident and authentic.
It is. And, it ties back to that idea of respect starting with yourself.
I see that. The way you present yourself can be a form of self-respect.
There's a passage in the book that I thought was really great. He says, "A Southern gentleman's wardrobe is an extension of his character. It should reflect his integrity, his attention to detail, and his respect for both himself and those around him."
I like that a lot.
It's not just about the clothes themselves, it's about what they represent.
Exactly. And what's really cool is how the guidebook weaves all these things together. Style, personal growth, core values. It creates a holistic vision of what it means to live a fulfilling life.
It does, it does. But it's not just about individual fulfillment either.
Right.
It goes beyond that. The book dives into the importance of relationships, community, in building a truly enriching life.
Yeah, it's all connected, isn't it?
It is, and that actually makes me think about the section on dining etiquette,
Okay, yeah. That's an interesting one.
because it seems like an area where is respect for others
hmm
and creating a harmonious atmosphere would be particularly important.
Absolutely. That chapter, it really emphasizes good manners, polite conversation. It's all about making sure everyone at the table feels comfortable and respected.
And I've always been a little intimidated by, formal dining settings, all the different forks and knives. But the guidebook actually breaks it down in a way that makes it feel less about rules and more about showing respect for your fellow diners.
I like that approach. It's
Yeah.
about the why behind the what.
It is. And it stresses things like being present and engaged, putting your phone away, actually listening to the people around you.
It's interesting how that connects back to the advice on tech etiquette in general. Using technology as a tool to connect rather than something that isolates you.
Right. It's about being mindful in all your interactions, whether you're at a fancy dinner or just grabbing coffee with a friend.
Absolutely. It's those small, everyday interactions that really add up.
They do. And this guidebook is full of these little nuggets of wisdom that you can apply to so many different areas of life.
It really is. It's not just a list of rules. It's a whole philosophy, a way of approaching